Hello, folks. I was looking at the video I made yesterday and it's so confusing. And I'm so tired of being confused by YouTube. Gotta slow down, try to make myself clear. Yesterday I was posting something about a private message to a friend where I said, perhaps with existential threats, certain things, the profit motive isn't the best motive to have, right? Maybe some other motivations would be better, proceeding from a different set of values, right? And of course, I got right back immediately. What about Tesla? What about, this, that, and the other thing? All these wonderful things. I have no problem with Tesla. Or Elon Musk, I just don't think he needs to make that much money. He can pay his fair share of taxes and so on. That's not a big stretch. Let these guys do what they've got to do. Sometimes you have good regulation and it's necessary, like in the Boeing case. If you leave people to regulate themselves, sometimes the profit motive can get in the way of good management and doing the right thing for your stakeholders and shareholders and customers and so on. That's all I'm saying. So if you have good governance, and we can point to that and put pockets around the world where governments do their job in a professional way, where social workers and bureaucrats are motivated and incentivized to do the right thing, to do good work. Nothing's perfect. I mean, I'm not saying Bill Gates is a conspirator out to kill the world or anything, but he's a powerful man. He has a lot of resources, and he can do what he wants to do with his money, which is great. But is that the most democratic way to, solve certain kinds of problems? Perhaps not. There are other ways. We can imagine those, we can see those, we can point to those, and so on. America's exceptional, sure it is. But Japan thinks it's exceptional. I had many arguments with Chinese friends in Shanghai and Beijing about how exceptional their country, only Chinese history is interesting. The rest of the world is nothing compared to Chinese history, whatnot. People tend to be a bit jingoistic and nationalistic. They're pumped full of messaging constantly, and they derive their opinions from that. We could be a little bit more humble about that. And that's all I'm saying, basically. You don't need a big conspiracy theory for things to get messed up. During 9/11, FBI, CIA, the government, Washington, D.C., a lot of people made mistakes, and you see what happens. You don't need a grand conspiracy, a really complicated thing. You can use your Occam's razor and figure it out based on, good evidence, good data, interpretation of data, good science, and so on and so forth. I'm not an expert to tell you what those are. If you know Carl Sagan, then you're familiar with the bullshit detector kit. And I think if you're a thoughtful, curious person, you want to develop that as well as you can, which means you're going to ask questions, even question yourself. So yesterday, somebody sent me a conspiracy video. This woman was talking, and it just spun out of control. There were 2 or 3 things in the beginning that I said, that sounds plausible. And then it just went into madness, You have to go to the beach to build up your immune system kind of stuff. And of course, the coronavirus isn't that. It's a really nasty virus, and it really is devastating to a lot of people. So, blah, blah, blah. Don't wear masks. Look, the idea of wearing masks is just not to shed virus on things and people if you're asymptomatic. It's not going to save your life necessarily, but it's going to cut down on the rate of cases over time. It's amazing how much misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, bullshit is out there. The profit motive is a good motive, but there are other motives you can have in life. Lots of other motives. You can think that maybe the Scythians and the Mongolians and the Vikings, if they weren't raping, pillaging, and plundering, they never would have done anything. Eric wouldn't have gone to Greenland and the whole world would have ended, something like that. You gotta give people money. Loot. They have to have loot. we are cutthroat, competitive creatures. We're not afraid to destroy the people we're competing with for various reasons. Okay, when I say I'm a structuralist, it's like what I'm saying is that all of these behaviors arise out of structures, systems, cultures, society, the nature-nurture thing. That's all I'm saying. I could go on and on and on about it, but I don't think I have to. The other thing is the body is an amazing thing. This bump is healing. I had a little cherry on my shoulder blade that healed very quickly. It's healing. That's a good sign. My wrist is going to take a lot longer, but it'll heal. It's an amazing thing what your immune system can do, what your body does naturally. Of course, you don't want a disinfected world. You don't want to grow up. Yes, if you can breastfeed, it's probably better for you. But I don't know if I breastfed and I'm okay, Something's going to kill you. As far as risk goes, I could move to northeastern Portugal by the border with Spain and live in a little village away from tourists and protect myself from the coronavirus and probably wouldn't get it, if I were really, really careful. But do I want to live like that? That's the point. So many things make us into sociopaths coming from our culture these days. I don't want to live with a bunker mentality or in some village somewhere cut off from people. I want to enjoy a healthy society, healthy interactions with people. I want to have good governance, good government, people who take their responsibilities seriously and who are considerate and kind and caring, and whose motivation doesn't just come from money and power and the game theory and all that kind of stuff. Maybe they like pats on the back. Maybe they like to be liked. Maybe they feel good when other people feel good. Maybe they're healthy people. They're not sociopaths. That's a much better way to go as far as I'm concerned. That's all I'm saying. So you can get away from these conspiracy theories and you can dig a little deeper and figure things out as best you can to get on with life and manage risk. I had a bicycle accident, Do I want to live not riding a bicycle? No. Is riding a bicycle risky? Obviously. So if I'm not careful, I pay the price. My accident is on me, totally on me. I made a bad decision and I paid for it. I have to be much more careful. There's an element of being careful and managing risk, and then that comes up against elements of living a vivacious life and doing what you enjoy and what you love. It's a tricky balance. No government is clairvoyant, and professionals in science and government and whatever domain you want to talk about, they can't predict the future. They do the best they can and they make mistakes. That's what I'm talking about with this, where did the virus originate? I don't know if it really matters that much at this point. Life matters more to me, but it's a curious story and it's interesting and it will come out someday, right? And so it doesn't hurt to look into it. You don't have to be conspiratorial to look into it. You don't have to be conspiratorial to know that people screw up and that profit motive isn't always benign, right? You're a billionaire, you got a lot of resources, you decide how the money's spent. Well, there could be better ways to do things besides leaving it in the hands of a bunch of philanthropic organizations. Maybe you could structure a society in a different way where people didn't have to be poor, where resources weren't withheld, where this inequality wasn't so great. Can you think of anything? Yeah, of course you can. It's not that hard. So that's all I'm saying. Getting into the weeds and the details is a lot tougher, and I'm not an expert in most of these things, so I can only make an effort and try to hone my bullshit detection kit. And I want to give a shout out to my friends on Facebook who, when they see something ridiculous, leave a message. It's funny that the female friends I have will post links and give a balanced kind of down-to-earth opinion, and some of the guys I know will see something and they'll say, bullshit. Well, you can't argue with that, right? Somebody says something, you say bullshit. You boil down your argument to a personal attack. And that's not an argument. Some nice guy will put 2 or 3 sentences together, or maybe a short paragraph, and I'll learn something. As far as all the online stuff, I want data, I want studies, I want links to experts, and I want people who aren't motivated by simply only ideology or only money. They have mixed motives, right? They love life, they love humanity, they like a good salary, they like their careers, but they're not careerist. They're not motivated purely out of greed, right? And these people will come up with a balanced kind of perspective on things, and they let you know that they're learning as they go as well, right? They don't know it all. Nobody knows it all. I like Chris Martinson's updates on the COVID-19 because he provides some data and some studies and a reasoned approach, and he doesn't get totally crazy, and I can learn something from that. So even if the information goes against the grain of what your settled beliefs are at the moment, you could learn something from listening to other people in a humble way. We forgot how to listen. That's a skill that a lot of us haven't spent too much time on, and we're all guilty of that to some degree, I guess. The girls are great. They tend to help quite a bit, be very helpful. Some of the guys are just opinionated old farts, They know it all because their perspective is obviously right. We tend to bloviate more, mansplaining and so on. But whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's some clarification. Look up structuralism in all its forms, physics, mathematics, and sociology, and postmodernism and whatnot. It's quite interesting. Things are systemic. These are complex systems we're dealing with, right? The climate and so on. Perhaps profit motive isn't the best motive to solve these problems. Maybe we need more cooperation around the world to solve these problems. What do you think? Thank you for watching, and take good care. Have a good time. Manage your risk. Live life. See ya.